what this partnership means for us as the City of Tshwane is a real demonstration of how government coherence can be leveraged in a very strategic and a very deliberate way. And us teaming up with the National School of Government, we will be leveraging a formidable capacity that we don't have to duplicate within our own city, but that we can really take and deepen and meet our own objectives and look at how we can share resources. This partnership also, we bring a lot to the table for the National School of Government. This is not a one-sided affair. We as the capital city, a large, formidable, complex metro, bring to the National School of Government an in-depth sense of knowing of and our own credibility of our own footprint within the local government space, of how we can assist the National School of Government to really navigate the local government terrain with a deeper sense of insight and knowledge, and have greater impact that we can co-design. So that excites us tremendously, and we see this journey helping us to up our own game, but also have multiple benefits for the country as a whole.
It's a very important partnership, this one we are entering into. We have been working with local government, and the experience of working with local government is not the same. The longest and the most reliable relationship is with the City of Cape Town over a number of years. They are very clear about their training delivery program. They are clear about who must train what, on what skills, and what is allocated to the National School of Government, and we get a lot of feedback out of it. And over the past 12 months at least, we've now moved into many different spaces of local government with new programs, and most importantly, we're now beginning to have a lot more elected officials coming into the training space at the National School of Government. Just a week or so ago, again, my team was in Vembe doing an executive oversight and ethical leadership program for councillors, for members of the mayoral committee, and we've been moving around in different spaces doing the same. And it's interesting to be having councillors in our training program, because it's got a different dynamic altogether as opposed to training MPs and MPLs. And it challenges us in a sense, because in training in certain provinces where we are given skills audits, we have a sense of how you pitch your interventions as opposed to elsewhere where literacy levels are at a different level. In fact, the work we are doing in KZN is quite interesting, because we are finding that traditional leaders tend to have a post-matric qualification as opposed to local government councillors. So in many instances, you must still do the basics of reading and writing, whereas the traditional leaders, they tend to be younger and they've got qualifications. They are small, but just as a reference point, that we are most likely to be in a training room with traditional leaders who conceptually deal with ideas at a graduate level as opposed to some in the local government space. And we still design interventions because fortunately we have a dynamic network of people who provide training, both who are employees of the NSG, but also former public servants and other experts whom we contract as independent trainers who are providing training services for us, which means from a language point of view, from a background and expertise point of view, we are able to deliver these programs. And excitingly, in the past 18 months or more, we have also entered into formal relationships with universities. What this thing means is that if, for example, as a city, there's a particular program that you want to do, which we as the NSG are unable to deliver that program, we use these relationships that we have with universities to deploy that type of program, both local as well as international universities. So if you want to do a program on design thinking for city officials and is not immediately available, with our relationship with INSEAD, which is the best business school in the world for 21 years now. Through us, we can then register you at INSEAD for a design thinking course and negotiate a discount because of the relationship that we have. So we've taken that strategic view that says where we are unable to offer a service, we will rather leverage those expertise from elsewhere, which means we can be more responsive to the requirements and the needs of our client. We use that word reluctantly, but use offer services to our clients such that you know that when you come to us, there's a service we'll provide without us giving you a substandard service by trying to earn money out of a relationship, in fact, when we don't have the expertise. And it's true that we have a lot more public servants and former public servants. In this regard, public servants, I'm using it generically. It will people in the local government space, people who are MPs and MPLs, everybody in the public sector, as it were. We've got a program of professionalizing them so that they can enter the classroom, including on mentorship and so on. Our emphasis, is one. In the US, if we use the US as a benchmark, especially Silicon Valley, even if you look at Wall Street, some of the CEOs of best performing companies, Fortune 500 companies, they will have a training program, development program. They will also have a mentor or a coach. Even George Bezos, who runs the largest diversified service company in the world, has got a coach. We sometimes in South Africa believe that if I'm a DG or an MM or an HOD of a department, that we can just string along and lead a complex institution without anybody providing support. That is why we are emphasizing such things as coaching, that if a person who runs the biggest company in the world and he owns it, so it's his thing, so he can do whatever he wants to do with it, if he thinks that it requires a coach in order for him to effectively lead an institution, the same should apply as well, because we are leading people, we are leading organizations, we are dealing with public funds, and there are public expectations that we need to meet. So that's how we have diversified our offerings. And unfortunately, Cabinet has approved the professionalization framework for the public sector. We will be starting to implement in public administration, and then subject to finalization with SALGA adopting, and then we'll begin to cascade and implement in other spheres. However, what we are seeing is there are councils who want to adopt the framework now, and they can begin to implement it without waiting even for SALGA to do so. And we will see, we'll experiment and see how it goes. In local government, there's already certain requirements for pre-entry for people in certain categories of work. We want to make sure that the same applies across the system, including training of board members of your public entities. We're now doing so, and we tell them one thing: you come to us, we indulge, we train you, and that is a part of a professional development. If you're a director of an entity of a City of Tshwane, beyond the induction and onboarding, you must then professionalize, which means by the time you finish your term, you must be a charter secretary, or you must be a director at IOD, who's a certified director, so that you can master the art of serving. So we look forward to an exciting relationship. We are open for business, and we do want feedback. We value feedback. It's the only way we can strengthen ourselves as an organization.
I was made aware of this initiative as part of my onboarding, but also prior to that. And I was looking forward to, not necessarily to this particular engagement, but more to the whole menu, the whole process. And so for a number of reasons. Firstly, we as government sometimes suffer from this psychosis that it's only us. It's only in Tshwane, it is the municipality that will make things happen. We believe we can make an economy grow. We believe all kinds of stuff, and it's not quite correct. It's a misconception, in fact. We can achieve the most if we work in partnership. If we work in partnership with professional organizations, we work in partnership tertiary education, if you work in partnership with funding institutions, organized business, organized agriculture here in Tshwane, for example. So government on its own is only capable of delivering on its mandate if it works in concert with others, with its other stakeholders or other institutions, but work together. So certainly, as a start, that excites me. I'm also aware, Prof, that working together or building a partnership is not something that you are taught at university or taught at school, or even at home for that matter. We kind of assume that we have the ability to start the partnership, to nurture it, and to take it to the next level. But we are different people. And actually working on a partnership or starting one is actually something that should also, can also, and I know is being trained, that senior managers actually have to understand, or middle managers, how do you cultivate a partnership? You know, what sustains it? And certainly in all of the municipalities that I've worked in, it was exactly the absence of that across the board, where that contributed to the downfall of a municipality, simply because we don't take the time to think about things that we actually should think about. We are too busy with our performance agreements. We are too busy chasing targets. You are too busy trying to please, not you can't, because you can't please in government, trying to please politicians and your boss and all this kind of, that it doesn't actually strike you that there's a lot more behind this than just you with your CV, and now being put in a position where you must now lead. Sometimes leaders simply don't know how to lead. And that is a tragedy. And I say it's a tragedy because we have all of these resources that would enable us. I'm very excited to hear about the professionalization angle that you have raised. I'm not a great believer in MBAs, and I'm speaking strictly now from a governmental perspective, but you can convince me otherwise. Simply because I think that there should be more of an emphasis on strategic learning, strategic thinking. You call it design thinking. I'm also speak to you about off record, but what exactly you mean by that? But the ability of senior leaders to manage complex organizations and to do so strategically with other stakeholders and role players, and getting the best out of that particular scenario, which is different in every municipality. So for example, and I'm not going to make a long story, well, this is turning into a bit of a long story, but and I'll perhaps just stop here. This municipality is uniquely placed. Every day when I am here, I realize, it is so uniquely placed. It's the capital of South Africa. Even if I'm in Cape Town, I'll say that Tshwane is the capital, and I'll just have to weather that storm as a Cape Townian. But here's the capital, over 140 embassies. Yeah, the traffic that we get from all over, from within Africa, the southern regions of Africa, across the world, happens here, within a radius of 5 kilometers. You just cannot believe the reach that one has when you are in the city of Tshwane. It is unbelievable if you come to think of it. And it is that uniqueness that I think the leaders, both political leadership as well as administrative leadership, has to leverage. We have to leverage that, and being put in a position to leverage it. It's one thing to say it, but we have to be put into position. And I do think that with our partnerships, and no, we're not going to be your client. We are partners of yours. With that partnership, we should be able to explore the full wholeness, the full richness of what is available in the city of Tshwane. So it's a wonderful opportunity. I thank all of the colleagues who have worked so hard prior to my arrival here to make this happen. But it's only the start. The hard work lies ahead. To identify those critical areas that we need to develop in order to take the city and the region forward, so that this city can become the leading city on the continent.